and welcome to another episode. I'm your host, Simone Smith Bean, and this is another episode of Tech Hour. I'm so excited that we have in the hot seat today one of the brightest minds in crypto in the Bahamas. He is the president of the Caribbean Blockchain Alliance, Stefan Deleveaux, and he's here to talk about the Oasis Summit that is going to be happening in Nassau, Bahamas in January 2024 from the 22nd to the 24th. Welcome to the show, Stefan. Hi, Stefan.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So glad that you can be with us today. So, I see that you're putting on this amazing summit event called Oasis. Tell us a little bit more about the event and what we can expect.
Sure. So this was something that I kind of wanted to put together, especially after being at a number of different, not a number of larger conferences, but also some of the smaller events that turn out to be, in my opinion, a lot more impactful than some of the larger ones. So after going to a bunch of those, I basically realized one, I had the time um, to put it together, and then two, I felt like there would be a lot of impact. Now, to explain that, Oasis will be a summit basically that is focused on consumer crypto, and consumer crypto is something that most people are not aware of in general in terms of one of the different niches in the space. Because even today, if you ask people about crypto, they're usually thinking about trading or coins or exchanges and whatnot. But there's a number of different aspects and layers in the space, and one of them is consumer, where you're doing things that you normally do every day, where engaging in media, traditional media, social media, payments, of course, as well as even retail and things like beauty products, right? And what's happening now is we're seeing a lot of those avenues, a lot of those verticals are experimenting and using crypto rails and blockchain tech to interact and basically engage with products and customers in a lot of different ways. So that seemed like, and in addition to that, where we are in terms of crypto infrastructure, that aspect is now really accelerating, and it's becoming a lot easier to build and interact with. So wanted to make this fully about that in ways where you don't have to worry about the FTXs of the world. It has nothing to do with any of that. It's literally just things that people are already used to, but now while interacting with crypto tech.
So, it's really a space where people are solving problems, sounds like. Really, the one key thing I've found in the marketplace, and it's been at the top of everybody's mind, is how do we solve the payment space issue? And there are a lot of new movers in the space. I mean, Canoe has been out for a while, also moving in the space. But I think the marketplace is really looking for that change and that support that people can find and have payment processors now. So how are you going to be able to marry these two relationships, persons who are looking to get into the space and persons who are already in the space, to support them through their processes?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And to be honest, it's really about not just exposure, but just like enabling and facilitating these conversations. And this is also why we're bringing a number of folks down who are already like actively building and actively have done these things, and just want to build bridges and connect gaps at the end of the day. Because if you're trying to do something, if you're actively building and working on something in one way, and then you have a conversation with this person who's able to do it a different way, now you two are synthesizing ideas and kind of establishing relationships. I mean, I think relationship building and network building is such a high impact activity at the end of the day, that this is more about that than anything else, and just enabling these conversations.
How are you including the regulator in the event so that people can be more informed on how they can get their businesses established properly? I know that other jurisdictions have been readily available and open to new companies entering the market. But what have you found in the Bahamas as a space when you have new persons creating things that are just straight out of the lab and willing to go ahead and get it into the market and test it with the local community?
Yeah, and I mean, one thing about this is I definitely wanted the vibe of Oasis to be fully experimental, like for people to be open to trying new things, open to just understanding new possibilities. But of course, you still have that regulatory interaction at the end of the day, no matter what. So because of that, it was very important for me that we have, like, for example, the Securities Commission involved. And Christina Roll, who's director, we're doubly confirming, but we'll also have the Securities Commission there, most likely speaking as well. So that interaction will be really important, and that engagement will be really important.
So, who are some of the giants that you have been, or rock stars, I would say, in the space that you've invited to participate, and we can expect to hear from?
Sure. And I mean, it's kind of funny because these people are kind of big names in their spheres, but they may not be, you may not have heard of them. So for example, you have Evan McMillan from Disco, which is actually well known and very well respected crypto company. And you have a number of folks who have been like really deep in that builder space. For example, Winnie, who's done a number of things literally all over the space. Right now, she's running a crypto firm called Gossip Protocol. And I won't spoil, but they actually have an activity at basically a workshop setup that's going to be really interesting for people. But I'm trying not to go into too many details because
surprises.
For sure.
Surprises.
Yeah, so, and we also
and how you've seen things develop.
Yeah, for sure. And on the Caribbean Blockchain Alliance side, the main thing for us has been education more than anything else. That's the most important thing. I have been and I will say the last big thing that we've done was the Intro to Web3 workshop series last year, actually, which went quite well. And to be completely honest, we kind of slowed down a bit after the whole FTX nonsense. Not that it had anything to do with us, but we knew that it was very clear that people kind of needed a reset. So we slowed down on that. So this Oasis is not it's not a CBA event, but of course the connection is still there. So and this is also a new type of push into events in general, larger physical events, because most of our events have been virtual. But yeah, on the Oasis side, this is kind of a very experimental, but also expectedly very impactful push where this isn't really education. So it's a different sphere. It's more of just strictly community building and community and ecosystem expansion, really, at the end of the day. And I was going to say wholesome, but like more full of more intentional, really, where you can have longer conversations and deeper conversations. And if you come the first day, you'll be able to continue those conversations with hopefully the same people, or hopefully even more people the second day. So it's just that your capacity is so much larger to actually dive into certain topics and maybe even create new business partnerships. In these small events, it's much more likely that people find, co-founders and people to work with them in different capacities.
So when you're trying to support expansion, right, and you're looking at new marketplaces, is it those key partners to give us some good nuggets or some things that we should be looking at as far as new persons coming into the market and saying, okay, here's what you should be looking at, how you should be solving these particular issues, or it's for expansion purposes?
Yeah, and I think that's really the entire goal of this at the end of the day, in the sense that, at least I think, almost everything that people will see will be something new, something that they haven't experienced before or interacted with before, or a side either a side of crypto or a particular use case of crypto that they might not have even thought possible. So what I expect from this is just a lot of very new concepts, or at least very new different new interactions that will really, well, even just at first inspire people, and then secondly push to start building these solutions. So this could be one of those kind of catalyst, really, or like a shelling point for just a lot more activity where people realize what's possible, and then have more conversations about what's possible, and then just start working towards it more than anything else.
One thing that has been also a very, hot topic item is cross-border transactions just for within the Caribbean. A lot of us have been seeing each other in this space for such a long time, and we're still not there yet, where we're able to engage and do business with each other and really support each other's economy in a real cohesive way. What do you see? What do you see the challenges, and what do you see the benefits of solving that problem?
I mean, the benefits or the opportunity is massive. I mean, creating proper intra Caribbean trade is honestly the golden goose, right? Like that would activate so much for all of our economies. And to be completely honest, at least in my opinion, I think we're still a bit of a ways away from that. At least in a way that's distributed well. Um, but I think anything is kind of baby steps. So, for example, let me figure out the right way to put this. So for example, one of the companies coming down to speak is called Eco. They're also doing some interesting things with wallets and payments in general. But what I found they've done really well on is the UX, meaning that their wallet is incredibly. I mean, you've onboarded people into crypto before. You know, you've seen people's first interaction with the wallet, like, and 9 times out of
It's
10, people are like, "What?
challenging.
What am I
Yeah.
supposed to do? I'm supposed to write down what?"
Yeah, it's
It's
very
an incredible.
challenging.
It's a challenging process, and
It
then
is.
that's just the first. That's just your opening. Everything else is also equally challenging, I'd say. So the truth is, we're never going to get full like proper adoption through those means. But again, like I was saying earlier, the point where we are with crypto infrastructure is that aspect is becoming much easier, and Eco's kind of been honestly been on the forefront leading the way of that UX solution. So people will actually at Oasis, people will have a chance to play around with those wallets, and we have a kind of activation with them as well. And I think, and having used it myself, I think it's night and day. Where it's maybe 100 times easier to use than what people have interacted with before. So that I think is a great starting point, and I'm excited for them and like some of our local payment processing companies to interact and talk and hopefully create some partnerships, right? Um, but I think that's the first step, where just make that aspect easier, make it easier to use, make it easier to onboard, and then that opens the door to because if you think about it, crypto itself, if you look at P2P, like peer-to-peer interactions and transactions, that's cross-border automatically. That's already the opportunity is already there. The possibility is already there. It's just bringing that out to more and more people, and then connect and kind of creating these, establishing these connections more than anything else. So I think, yeah, starting from that UX aspect, that ease of use and accessibility aspect, that will open the door to so many things. So it will still take a while, but these are going to be the steps to move forward.
So, yes, Stefan, payments have been one of those things that, like I said, it's always an issue trying to figure out how to do or interact with our counterparts. And the local providers have been really great on advertising and getting people in there, but that user part, that UX that you were explaining, is so important with just engaging with on a normal basis. Because if you want engagement, so like right now there has been such a push to have sand dollar as one of those use case for interaction in the digital asset space, but people are still timid in getting into it because the using part or the understanding part is still not where it could be. And people still don't know if what it means to transact in that with digital currencies or change their money into a digital currency and how easy it is. And so if we're not really focused on that education, teaching people how to properly engage in it, it's almost like you're still hoping that the choir comes down and sings for the song. So yeah, I mean, I think education also very, very key. But how do you think where our younger generation is faring when it comes to this space? Do you think that that's something that's not even a challenge for them? Are they engaging in more than we see our counterparts?
Yeah, I mean, I think the younger generation is pretty much on top of all things new tech for sure. But I mean, it's still, even for them, especially here, it's still a challenge in the sense of we just have so many barriers. Like for example, like even just the on ramps and off ramps are almost non-existent for most people. Some people have been able to get on exchanges, some people have not. Even if we're talking about the regular buying and selling activity, even that's still very difficult. So actually, I think for young folk, uh, and we want as many young people, of course, to come to this as possible as well, for them to see some of the newer, I mean, like breaking new ways to interact, ways to onboard. That will, I think, that will give them a lot of opportunity as well, into solving their problems. Because I what I see is, people are paying attention, people are interested, but they not sometimes they still can't figure out the right door to step into, basically, the right way to interact. So yeah, it's a tough question. They're engaging, but it still hasn't been easy. So I'm hopeful to bring them into an easier way to do it, pretty much.
Well, you mentioned the on ramp and off ramp. It has been a somewhat of an issue for a number of years that Bahamians are not allowed to interact with foreign currencies unless they get permission. And that's still a law that is in place that kind of hampers us in our ability. And I know um, a lot of our peers don't have such challenges. And so how do you feel like that hampers us, our growth, our development? Do you think that that's still becoming something that's stopping us from moving forward? And how can we really change that type of mindset that our, I guess you would say, because it comes from central bank, that our politicians have?
Great question. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, exchange control is probably the biggest barrier for folks trying to engage in the space, and that's going to remain a difficulty for as long as it remains there. I know there have been talks lately about kind of lowering or getting rid of exchange control. We'll see, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of the elephant in the room, right? Like, how much can we do as long as that's there? I'm also hoping to have some of the central bank folks there as well, especially the sand dollar team, and again, just kind of open these interactions and build these conversations. um, and yeah, it's a hard question when I don't really have the answer for it, mainly because that's still the case. Like, we have exchange control, we have to deal with it. Hopefully, and I mean, and because this is fully consumer focused, a lot of this will be doing things where you're not necessarily interacting with a different cryptocurrency, for example, where it's kind of more on the tech side. So there'll be interesting interactions and types of ways to engage without even having to worry about that, for example. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's the best answer, right?
I think that that's the problem solving thing right there. How do we find solutions around the things that are hampering us to do better
Yeah,
or to engage in a better way?
exactly. I mean, the beautiful thing about blockchain, the beautiful thing about crypto tech is that you don't you there's so many things you can do, and there's so many ways you can create solutions or use solutions that have nothing to do with the money aspect or the trading aspect. And that's something I think is extremely important to show to people as well. and to get people to understand, because it is a technology at the end of the day. It's not just money. It's not just currency. There's so many different and other aspects of crypto that are really breaking ground in terms of how humans operate and how humans innovate at the end of the day. And I think that's going to be really important. And I think that's why, at least for this, that's going to be the main focus.
I'm looking forward to seeing more in the gig economy space that's going to allow persons to really use technology to sell themselves or sell services, things and like that really spur growth. Because I think one thing that we have to continue to encourage is people to innovate and become entrepreneurs and grow. And I think Bahamians do that well in that space,
Yeah.
particularly becoming new entrepreneurs. I mean, ideas are something that flow out of us so well. And I'm so grateful that you're creating a space where people can collaborate and connect during Oasis. I'm really looking forward to participating and coming in also to the event and listening in and hoping to meet new people and really learn how we can do better as a region and what we can do to solve problems together. So tell us what that as a we're almost to the end of the show, and whenever I get close to the end, I always want to hear what our guest future outlook is, in for the industry, for the technology, for the growth. Like, where do you see blockchain? And crypto is a part of blockchain, but blockchain, where do you see blockchain taking us, and how do you see it changing all aspects of life?
Yeah, I mean this, and to be fully transparent, I'm definitely also hoping Oasis helps to fully and completely close the chapter on the FTX incident, we'll say, that happened. So that this is like Oasis and
People
also
want that. I'm telling you that
everyone
it
wants
has been, everybody really wants that.
everyone wants that. So between Oasis and 24 and 2024 in general, we're in a new chapter of what this tech means for people, and I think Oasis is going to be a huge part of that. Um, and again, consumer, I really I've worked in many different areas of the space, but consumer right now is what I'm most excited about, because it'll be able to bring in so many people, without having to worry about the things that people usually worry about in the crypto side of things. So yeah, consumer is going to open a lot of doors to people, one, getting into the space, two, people interacting with the tech in very easy ways. I expect and maybe just hope that that will also lead to eventually that activity and that learning and that engagement will lead to them embracing other aspects of the space, such as DAOs, for example, where people are organizing in maybe different communities or different activities through blockchain as well. And that's
The
really interesting
future,
in the sense of
the
what
future.
what people can do in the future, even with things like voting and governance and things like that, or even just doing more things together rather than doing things individually.
I agree with you 100%. I think DAOs are the way of the future when it comes to solving a lot of real world problems, and
Absolutely.
without having any external issues that would cause it not to flourish, or it removes a lot of those barriers.
Right.
So I'm really looking forward to hearing a lot more about that, and hopefully that the powers to be allow such a type of organizations to be established within the
I
space.
think we'll get there for sure.
I hope so. I hope so. I'm really hopeful. I'm hopeful, and I'm grateful for you to putting on such an event. Everybody's looking to put FTX behind them and show how amazing things can be when people are acting in the best interest of the consumer. And so, Oasis is consumer based. Please tell us where's the website? How can we find the information about the event? And what should we look forward as far as registering? How do we go about that?
Yeah, so you can find the event. The website is Oasis on Chain, one word, .xyz. Had to go the very tech route with the XYZ domain. You can also find it on Twitter, just Oasis on Chain. But again, oasisonchain.xyz. And on the site, you can find the agenda. We're actually putting up the list of speakers now, and it'll have all the information. It'll also have the registration is on the site as well. And what we allowed is you can either, if you want, you can pay either through regular currency or you can pay through crypto. So we allow both. And to add to that, if you're interested in sponsoring this event, because costs are a thing for conferences, we'd love to have you as a sponsor. We'd love to get you more involved as well. But definitely check out the site, see if it interests you, and we would love to have you join. And it's 3 days, so you have a lot of opportunity.
Awesome. We definitely will be there. And SBC will definitely look at sponsoring as well, because we always believe in sponsoring amazing events, especially that are going to impact our community in the blockchain space. So thank you again, Stefan, for being here. And guys, Oasis on Chain, January 22nd to the 24th, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Pop down to Nassau. It's going to be awesome. Great speakers, great event. Great. Thank you, Mr. President. Awesome. I really appreciate you being here with us. And thank you guys for tuning in for another episode of Tech Hour. I'm your host, Simone Smith Bean. Until next time.
Thank you.